match each equation with the solution set. And we'll start with x to the 5/3 equals 32. So I'm going to flip over to my notebook paper. In fact, I will do x to the 4/3 equals 625 as well. But here's the thing. What we can do with this rational exponent is to get rid of it, we can multiply it by its reciprocal. So if I multiply this by 3/5 here, and you can't read it very well, I'm going to also raise this to the 3/5. And it's actually, if I get technical here, it's this. X to the 5/3 to the 3/5. So then over here, I did 32 to the 3/5. And what happens is when we superpower these, we multiply those. So we simply get x. And then we've got 32 to the 3/5. And what we need to do is we need to rewrite this in radical form. So this is going to be, the base is going to be the radicand. The denominator is going to go in the checkmark part. It's called the index. And then the numerator is the power. Edmentum writes the 3 on the inside. I prefer to write the 3 on the outside. Because here's the thing. If we're dealing with the 5th root of 32, it's 8 times 4, which is 4 times 2 and 2 times 2. Over here, this 4 is 2 and 2. And if we carry them down, what we have is we have 5 of the same value. We can take out 1. So here's our 2, and then it's going to be 2 cubed, which is 8. So couldn't see the 8 there, but there it is. Same idea over here. To get rid of this 4/3, we're going to raise x to the 4/3 to the 3/4 power. And that's the reciprocal of 4/3. And if we raise the left side of the problem to the 3/4, we're going to raise the right side to 3/4. And what happens again, 4/3 times 3/4 is 1. So we get x. And then we've got 625 to the 3/4. We want to rewrite this as x equals, well, the base becomes the radicand. The denominator is going to go in the checkmark part. And then, again, Edmentum doesn't do it that way. I can do this just slightly easier without a calculator. And I believe that 625 is 25 times 25, which is 5 times 5, and 5 times 5. And what we're looking for in this particular case is we're looking for 4 of the same. Well, we've got 4 of the same value. Take out 1, and it's going to be 5 cubed, which is 125. So let's go back to the iPad here for a second and look at the problem. So x to the 5/3 equals 32. We found that that one equaled 8. And then our x to the 4/3 we said equals 125. And the thing about this one is, and you need to be able to see it, is that over here it says plus or minus. And I'll talk about why it's plus or minus in just a minute. I hope I don't forget. But let's go ahead and do the other two problems. X to the 4/5 equals 81. X to the 4/5 equals 81. And the other problem is x to the 3/4 equals 64. And like we were doing previously, we're going to raise this to the 5/4, raise this to the 5/4. When we superpower, what happens is that becomes 1, x to the first power. So this is 81 to the 5/4, and then we have to rewrite. So x equals 81. The denominator goes in the check mark part. and then it's to the 5th power. If we break down 81, it's 9 times 9, which is 3 times 3, 3 times 3. And what we're looking for is we're looking for 4 of the same value. Well, sure enough, we've got 4 3s, and that's 3 to the 5th. And I have to stop and think here for a second, but 3 to the 5th, I think is 243. So when we go back and look at Edmentum here, so I don't forget to talk about it, here we just did x to the 4/5 equals 81. We get plus or minus 243. And the reason these two are both plus and minus, positive and negative, is we ended up taking the 4th root on this particular problem. And where we got the plus or minus was with the 125. We ended up with taking the 4th root. And it's not because we're taking the 4th root. It's because we're taking an even root. So when we're taking an even root, we're going to get the plus or minus. Over here, we were taking an odd root. And that's going to be the same as we finish with this problem here. To simplify it, we're going to raise this to the 4/3, raise this to the 4/3, superpower, which means we multiply those exponents. So we get x equals 64 to the 4/3. And when we simplify this, even though we know what the answer is, what happens is the 64 goes here. The cubed root, we're taking an odd root, so we're only going to get one answer on that. And then to the 4th power. By the way, I believe you can type in Desmos 64 to the 4/3, and that will give you the answer. But how do we figure it out? Well, here's 8 times 8, and then 4 times 2. Same over here, 4 times 2. And if we bring this 2 down, and we bring this 2 down, what we're looking for is we're looking for 3 of the same to take out 1, 3 of the same to take out 1. So 2 times 2 is going to be 4, and then to the 4th power, which must be 256 if we look back at our problem here.